Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I think it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A new week begins right here, right now, live on a Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Bright and early on this Monday to recap the weekend that was. A huge Sunday slate around the NBA. Double-digit games in the association as the stretch run after All-Star Weekend is fully back. We had a huge weekend in college hoops. Friday, Saturday, even Sunday. Now less than 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday, when the field of 68 in an NCAA tournament bracket will be unveiled. There's NFL news and notes to bring you. Combine Week officially starts today in Indianapolis. There is a ton to get to here, DRS, over these 3 hours on TEL.
Yeah, we're ready for it, no doubt. And also, as Ben pointed out, 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday. But mind you, people, we coined the phrase March Madness for a reason. This Saturday is March 1st. March 2nd, we start conference tournament play, and away you go. So get used to day basketball Monday through Friday for the next couple weeks here. It's one of the things we love about the college basketball season. It does feel like a sprint right now until we see the Final Four and the final games, but I'm here for it. I'm invested. I had a great time this weekend handicapping basketball games, getting familiar with some of the players, on that individual basis. Let me get a look at this guy. Let me get a look at this team here. I'm all in at this point now, so it's a lot of fun, and I'm going to enjoy this little run over the next month or so.
How about Mississippi Valley State? Team total under 55 and a half.
Come on now.
DRS went to the alt markets and said under 35 and a half. I think they scored 36. My man is on it right now with team totals. It's a great time in college hoops. We'll have plenty of college basketball reaction from the weekend in just a little bit. We start in the NBA. 10-game slate on a Sunday and a big weekend, DRS, for the New York Knicks in this stretch run, trying to solidify a spot near the top of the Eastern Conference, but also trying to prove, hey, we can compete with the big boys. Well, can you? They got absolutely hammered in Cleveland on Friday night. They go to the home of the reigning NBA champs yesterday in Beantown and get beat bad once again. The Celtics victorious over the Knicks, 118-105. The reigning NBA champs cover as a 7.5-point home favorite. Make that 5 wins in a row, DRS, for the C's, covering in all 5 victories as well.
Yeah, both made 39% of their shots from three-point range. Both were 100% from the free throw line, each making 11. You probably figured this game would be close, but it wasn't. You take a look at the Boston Celtics shooting close to 50% from the floor as a team, which included a 38-19 opening quarter. It felt like it was over from that point on. Got a little bit closer with a decent third quarter from the New York Knicks, but easily a double-digit victory for the Boston Celtics. And we are going to have some conversations about what we think of the Knicks. But how about this? At least in this game, as they got rocked, you know, we weren't having guys play 30 and 40. Oh, no, we did there, Ben. So there goes the Knicks theory on that.
For sure. 1-2 since the All-Star break for New York. The only victory at home as a double-digit favorite, just barely edging out the Bulls in OT. The Knicks now this year, 0 against Boston, 0-3 with an average margin of defeat around 21 points per game. Elsewhere in the NBA's best team in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder, continue to roll. Huge road victory yesterday in Minnesota against the T-Wolves, 130-123. Minnesota was an 8.5-point dog at home, so they do cover. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, DRS, game high 37 points. It's what the MVP frontrunner has done all year long.
How about going on the road and shooting 56% as a team, which included 54% from three-point range, which equated for 19 of 35. That's how it gets done. You want to be the best team in the Western Conference? Oklahoma City's doing that. You want to be the best player in the MVP, which means you want to win the MVP? 37 points for SGA. It all is clicking right now for OKC. 46-10 for this squad.
The Timberwolves, a good underdog team, 9-5-1 against the spread, but really Minnesota faltering based on those preseason expectations. Elsewhere around the NBA, after the All-Star break, not a great sign in Philadelphia. As Donnie predicted, they don't call him Dr. Donnie for nothing. The Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid are considering alternative options on his injured knee, as the Sixers, DRS, have lost 7 consecutive games.
Yes, hang it up. It's done. You want to make sure you try to get into that, lottery protected top 6 pick, which is what they have. And you're right on the cusp of basically percentage wise, probably getting that pick. There's no sense in winning any more games the rest of this year. You shut PG down. You shut Joel Embiid down. You say, hey, Tyrese Maxey, you're a great basketball player. You're not playing more than 25 minutes in a basketball game. Get back into tank mode, which is something probably the Sixers fans enjoyed a lot more than the actual process itself once they got healthy, because it didn't equate to any even Eastern Conference Finals. So let's go back to the tank. I'm in 4, 5, 6 years here, winning 10 basketball games a season to try to get some of those exciting talents in your building, and maybe it works next time. Maybe that's what the Sixers should do, because right now, whatever they're doing, it's not working.
7 straight L's, 16 games sub 500, and still only a game and a half out of an Eastern Conference play in tournament spot. Plenty more from the NBA weekend that was later on in this opening hour. But a huge college basketball Sunday inside Madison Square Garden. Perhaps the game of the year in the Big East. And St. John's is here to say, this is our league now. Slick Rick Pitino leads the Red Storm to a huge 89-75 victory over the 2-time reigning champs, UConn, inside the world's most famous arena. The Johnnies DRS cover as only a 3.5-point home favorite inside the Garden.
I'll tell you what's scary here, because the one thing that has been missing all season long was just shooting three-point range and being adequate there. Now you're taking a look at a couple games in a row where St. John's, how about this, 8 of 19 from three-point range. You tell me that St. John's can shoot 40% from three-point range. Watch out for the tournament, not only in the Big East, but March Madness as well. Grit, grime, and the three-point shot now working. They got it all cooking.
You know, at Happy Gilmore, when Happy says, looks like somebody learned how to punt, that's St. John's if they have an offense, which they put on display yesterday against Dan Hurley's Huskies. Other college basketball. In 49 other states, it's just basketball. In Indiana, it's a way of life. In Bob Knight's chair that he threw across Assembly Hall back in '85, Mike Woodson leads IU to a second-half rally and an upset over their bitter rivals in Purdue, knocking off 13th-ranked Purdue, who has now dropped 4 consecutive games with a wild second half come from behind victory for Indiana, 73-58. The Hoosiers win outright as a 4.5-point home dog.
Yeah, if you're watching along on social media with this basketball game, it was pretty funny from an Indiana perspective. Fire the coach right now. Why wait to the end of the season? Let's rebuild this thing. And then 48-21, the second half margin for IU in a blowout victory sort of changed the tide. Is now Indiana 7-9 in the Big Ten. Can they make a surge late in the season? 16-11 on the season. That's a pretty good jump start right there because they were dead to rights in the first half and blasted them in the second.
Mike Woodson, lifelong Hoosier, in his final game as IU's head coach against the bitter rival in Purdue, goes out with a victory. Indiana flirting with that NCAA tournament bubble. Let's get to a huge Sunday in women's college basketball. A double OT thriller in Raleigh as NC State, ranked 13th in the country, pulls off the upset over number 1 Notre Dame, 104-95. DRS, it seems for a second consecutive week, we will have a new number 1 team in the nation as the Fighting Irish falls.
How's that saying go in women's college basketball? Oh, that's right. Any given Sunday. So there you go. Big time upset there. Good stuff as we head towards the Hannah Hidalgo and the girls. Hey, I think they're going to be just fine in the tournament, though. It's a good basketball program.
33 points from Zoe Brooks, including a perfect 14 of 14 from the stripe for the Wolfpack. Shador Sanders, DRS, will not work out at the NFL Combine. Combine week officially starts today.
Yeah, we're not doing any extra work around here. Look at you, Ben. You're not going to do any extra work here. Sit it out. Have some fun. You're going to get drafted. You're great at your job. I mean, come on now. You know what I mean? Come on.
Thank you. I'm great at my job. Shador pretty good at his job as well. Should be one of the first 2 quarterbacks off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft. College hoops recaps next.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I talked about AZ Fun a lot, folks, and said when she got back from that knee injury, remember, it's the second ACL tear she's had in her career, that she was going to be a difference maker. UConn is plus 330. They're not going to get challenged again in the Big East until they come out of conference play in the conference tournament. I still like them at plus 330 to win a national championship.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It's called the world's most famous arena for a reason. And this weekend in college basketball, MSG was certainly that. History on Saturday night as number 3 Duke absolutely routs Illinois. We'll talk about that history in just a little bit. But Donnie, on Sunday afternoon, the real marquee event of the weekend inside Madison Square Garden. Number 10 St. John's against the 2-time reigning national champion Connecticut Huskies. UConn considers MSG Store South a home away from home, if you will. It is the home of St. John's men's basketball. But in the last 2 decades, prior to Rick Pitino, sometimes going to the big lights of MSG would be underwhelming. Not this year and not yesterday. 89-75. The victory for the Johnnies against the Huskies. A 14-point win for St. John's. 89 points for the nation's second most efficient defense, covering at home DRS as a 3.5-point favorite and a total of 141 and a hook. Skies over. The Red Storm now 15-2 straight up in Big East play with huge victories on back-to-back weekends inside the Garden against Creighton and UConn. St. John's just a few games away with a few victories to boot to claim their first Big East regular season crown in more than 3 decades. That is the Rick Pitino difference.
It is the Rick Pitino difference, and also energizing New York City. Understand this, you do have home court advantage once you get into the Big East tournament. Now, granted, other teams, other fans will invade the Garden because it's a party up there in New York City. We understand that. But if this is your home court, we're used to playing there, and the fans will be on your side, and also the electricity raising, because over the past, let's say, 30 years, sure, hey, St. John's is always at home. They didn't have Rick Pitino. They didn't have this type of team. A top 10 team here heading in, playing its best basketball of the season, 15-2 now in conference play. And as we started the show off talking about St. John's, we were never worried about them playing good defense. We were never worried about them getting to the rim. But it's, can you make open shots when the other team gives them to you? And if you're also taking 19 of them, making 8 of them yesterday, 42%, yeah. I just use the marker. If you're around 40%, that's like the best in the country in conference play. And if you're going to shoot at that level and play that type of defense, the sky is the limit for St. John's. And as I said, if you're doing that on the biggest stage against UConn in Madison Square Garden, why can't you replicate this in just a few weeks in the Big East tournament? St. John's on a roll, no doubt about it.
There is no doubt about it. 15-2 in conference, 24-4 overall this year. All 5 starters for the Red Storm yesterday scoring in double figures, at least 12 points. And if RJ Lewis is going 3 of 6 from deep, it is always going to be a good story for St. John's. We know that the Red Storm is elite defensively. The offense is the difference, DRS, between being an NCAA tournament team looking for its first tourney victory since the year 2000 and going deep in the Big Dance. Second weekend, maybe third weekend, and the Final Four. Yesterday after the game, Dan Hurley, a guy that understands what it takes to win national championships, highlighted what St. John's does on the defensive side of the floor. Here's the Johnnies head coach and Rick Pitino responding to that and the defense overall.
I thought we played our best game of the season, but when you get into the Big East tournament and you get into the NCAA tournament, it becomes all matchups, all styles. You got to change a lot going into the tournament because the film work is so extensive. So you got to make your tweaks in your offense, tweaks in your defense, but it's all matchups, and you hope for good matchups. We hope we get a great seed. We hope we finish this thing out and keep playing great basketball. But I am a little concerned about Kadari right now. I am concerned about him. We may have to sit him out and just give him a lot of rest to prepare for the season. If necessary, we're going to do that.
Kadari Richmond only 25 minutes yesterday for St. John's as leader in the point guard spot. Still 18 points, DRS, only in those 25 minutes. Rick Pitino always finding something, right? Always making sure his team is ready to go. 2 games this week that St. John's will be favored in. On the road in Indy against Butler, at home against Seton Hall, who is really struggling this year. Then a full week off, DRS, entering the finale at the high major level for the regular season. That's 2 weekends from now with a road trip to Milwaukee against Marquette. The Golden Eagles, 11-5 in Big East play. St. John's, 15-2, 3.5 games up over Marquette. 2.5 game lead over Creighton, who is 12-4 in conference. Donnie, St. John's just a few wins away from clinching that Big East regular season crown for the first time since the 1991-92 campaign.
It's incredible it's been that long, because usually it is like a round robin, like, hey, good school here in the Big East. You get your highs, you get your lows. Maybe at least one out of every 10 years, you're going to pull down a championship. It's been a long time for St. John's, and it's nice because you get reinvigorated at this point. Maybe all it took was, the king, the Don, to come back to Madison Square Garden, who is Rick Pitino, to invigorate that program. But they're riding that wave right now, rightfully so. And as you pointed out, at Butler should be a win. Seton Hall at home should be a win. That's a tough game to end the season at Marquette. Maybe you already have things wrapped up. But also, understand this. If they have everything wrapped up by that game, they're still going to play hard. The seed line is what Rick Pitino was just talking about. Is so important. The more wins you have, the better quality wins you have, the higher that seed line is going to be. Theoretically, the easiest path towards a Final Four. They need to keep winning basketball games, regardless of if they win the regular season Big East title.
In that early bracket preview last weekend, St. John's was the 4th in Final Four seed, 16th overall, if you will. There's a really good chance, DRS, the Red Storm are on the 2 line come Selection Sunday. A 25-1 number for St. John's right now to win a national championship. That's 8th best around the country. A much longer price for UConn, 80-1. Our 2-time reigning national champs looking to win 3 in a row for the first time in college basketball since the early 70s in the John Wooden era in Westwood at UCLA. It does not seem, DRS, this team will do that. But if they're an 8-9 seed come the big dance, that's a scary team with a lot of pedigree under Dan Hurley.
Yeah, and also, you went rotating wins and losses, right? You lose to St. John's, Creighton, Seton Hall, Villanova, St. John's, back and forth their wins and losses. You got Georgetown, should be a victory. You got Providence, should be a victory. You got Marquette, which would be a tough one, but it is at home for UConn. And then Seton Hall should be a victory. Maybe they can get a springboard of 4 straight wins, including one quality opponent in Marquette, before they actually make the Big East tournament. So we have the pedigree. We just need them to live up to the hype of what we saw the past 2 years.
For sure. It's momentum, right? And UConn was incredibly dominant in their tournament runs. They understand this stage. Elsewhere around college basketball, next.
Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four, because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I talked about AZ Fun a lot, folks, and said when she got back from that knee injury, remember, it's the second ACL tear she's had in her career, that she was going to be a difference maker. UConn is plus 330. They're not going to get challenged again in the Big East until they come out of conference play in a conference tournament. I still like them at plus 330 to win a national championship.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I feel when I look at this Arizona team, I don't take them serious as a national title threat, because you're asking Caleb Love to bottle magic that I just don't even think exists.
4.4, 6.6, 7.4, 7.7, 7.8. This guy is literally taking, he'll shoot you out of games, Kevin.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
A huge weekend in college basketball, less than 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday. At the high major level, 2 weeks remain in the regular season to try to improve that seed line, be on the right side of the bubble, or specifically for regular season action, claim a conference crown, which is something Houston is trying to do for its second consecutive year in the Big 12. It's only 2 years in the conference. In the Cougs, getting closer to that, DRS, at home on Saturday afternoon against Iowa State. 68-59, the victory for Houston. However, the Cyclones do cover as an 11.5-point road underdog. A total of 129.5 does stay under. Houston, the most balanced team in the country, perhaps, still elite on the defensive side of the floor. The reason, DRS, the line got to double digits as well, Iowa State without a couple of key contributors, Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones, who might be the best sixth man in all of college basketball. They did not play on Saturday. Houston takes advantage. LJ Cryer, scores 28 points. In the Cougs, very, very close to a second straight Big 12 crown.
Yeah, handicapping this game, late in the week, I was like, you know what? Iowa State's got a legitimate chance to hang around in this ball game. But you're right. You saw the updates come with Gilbert and Jones not playing. Man, this could be an absolute bloodbath because you need those guys on the outside to sort of take some of the offensive pressure against a team that's very good on defense. And how about that? Still wound up with a cover. Now, granted, we were talking last week, which one of those teams that could steal the one-line bid? Well, it went up in flames, obviously, for Iowa State, and that long shot chance to do that. They had to beat Houston, but I think it was a foregone conclusion before the game started. No Gilbert and Jones. They weren't going to win that basketball game, and they didn't. So Houston continues to improve. It's one of those teams, they're hard to gauge. You look at the record, it used to be, Ben, they don't play in a Power 5 conference. Let's see when they get to the big stage. And they were always fine. Now they're in the big Power 5 conference and dominating here, but I still feel like Houston gets put behind the 8 ball, similar to the way that you might view St. John's. Gritty team, gutty team, but can they really win when the other team's got a lot of offensive firepower? Can they answer back? I'm hoping they can do that. But you want to talk about, going up against iron versus iron, sharpening your knives here during the regular season. They've done that. They've been impressive.
DRS, third most efficient defense in the country. All right, that's what Kelvin Sampson always does in H-Town. The difference this year, top 7, 7th most efficient offense in college basketball. They play at a slow pace, so those possessions at a premium on Saturday and really all year long, Houston has taken advantage. All right, 4 games remaining for Houston in Big 12 title contention. They have a 3-game lead over who? Texas Tech. No days off in the Big 12. Houston heads to Lubbock tonight to take on the Red Raiders as a slight 1.5 favorite. What a game that is on a Monday evening. Our second top 10 tilt of Saturday afternoon, that would be Tennessee on the road in College Station against Texas A&M. In the Volunteers, behind a 30-point performance from Chaz Lanier, the transfer from North Florida, goes on the road and gets a huge win outright as a 1.5 underdog, 77-69, skying over a total of 131.5. Huge game for Lanier, huge game for the Volunteers overall, Donnie.
Absolutely. How about 48% from three-point range on the road in SEC play? That's how you get it done. And by the way, kudos to both of these teams. Typically in close games, you want to make your free throws. Both of them did, Ben. Each going 18 of 20 from the line, good for 90%. When the game just boils down to it, sometimes you just have to win at the three-point line. One team made 13 three-pointers. The other made 5 three-pointers. That was the difference.
Yes, it certainly was. Speaking of the 3-ball, speaking of points, we saw that on Saturday as well. Top 20 tilt in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama bounces back. 2 consecutive losses for the Tide against really good opponents, as basically everybody is in the SEC. Donnie, a total that we predicted based off the Ken Palm projections would be in the low 80s. It closed on FanDuel at 179.5. It barely stays under that number. It opened, however, because I did chart this on Saturday at 177 and a hook. Alabama does win 96-83, 30-point performance out of Mark Sears. The Crimson Tide and that offense rolling on Saturday inside Coleman Coliseum.
They needed that bounce back, and you thought they would get it because Kentucky likes to play a lot of tempo but not a lot of defense, and that really played out. And also trying to take a look on Friday before the numbers came out for the Saturday game, we thought that Alabama would be between 93.5 and 94.5 as their team total, which most people are like, I don't care what happens. You need a clean run to get that. 96 points for Alabama, which they did clinch, I believe, in the final 2 minutes of that game, which you needed every one of those points. But it's insane how well this conference does play defense sometimes with these two teams. Sometimes you start knocking it down, man. 96 points is crazy in a matchup against UK, but big win. Big win.
Free throws are very important for spreads and totals down the stretch of college basketball games. Plenty more hoops next.
Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I talked about AZ Fun a lot, folks, and said when she got back from that knee injury, remember, it's the second ACL tear she's had in her career, that she was going to be a difference maker. UConn is plus 330. They're not going to get challenged again in the Big East until they come out of conference play in the conference tournament. I still like them at plus 330 to win a national championship.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I feel when I look at this Arizona team, I don't take them serious as a national title threat because you're asking Caleb Love to bottle magic that I just don't even think exists.
4.4, 6.6, 7.4, 7.7, 7.8. This guy is literally he'll shoot you out of games, Kevin.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The world's most famous arena. Again, a hotbed of college hoops this weekend. Sunday, what a game it was between St. John's and Connecticut. The Red Storm making a statement. You could say Duke did that as well on Saturday night. A rare non-conference game at this stage of the year, but both the Blue Devils, the number 3 team in the nation, and the Fighting Illini of Illinois had a weird break in their conference action. So instead of rest, they decided to play against really good competition. I don't know if Illinois was such great competition for Duke on Saturday. A 43-point win for the Blue Devils inside MSG. Yeah, I would say the title of that graphic is spot on. 110-67. The Dukies cover as a 9.5-point favorite. A total of 156.5 skies over. It is the largest margin of victory for Duke DRS in a non-conference neutral site game since 1953-54. That was the first year the Blue Devils became a member of the ACC. The largest margin of defeat for Illinois in program history. On one side, it was a game to sharpen the iron, if you will. On the other, it looked like a glorified scrimmage that they quit about 20 minutes into.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, too, because you figure the bigness of the game. When you called it out last week to my attention, like, hey, Duke's going to play Illinois at the Garden. I said, well, that's interesting. You know, Big Ten ACC battle this late in the season, where you figure both of these teams would be up and almost like a reprieve from, okay, we're used to playing our teams in the ACC. We're used to playing our teams in the Big Ten. Let's have fun for almost like a preview of what this could be in March Madness. They didn't even show up. I mean, 110-67. Usually these games are a lot of hype coming in because two teams that don't know much about each other, you're not scouting each other, and you just sort of show up and play. It's like, hey, it's going to be an interesting game. Maybe it's even a rock fight because it's a neutral site and you're not used to playing these teams. But Duke scoring 110 points against the Illini. I don't even know where to begin in this game, but just looking at the final score, it was really dumbfounded. I mean, it's just a blowout by massive proportions. That yes, Duke was favored by close to double digits, but at the same time, stop it, man. It killed them.
Illinois got off to a 12-3 start, 4-1 in Big Ten play. From that point, DRS, they have dropped 8 of their last 13. They are struggling. I thought Saturday night would provide that reprieve. All right, Duke, you've been beaten up on the bad ACC, but here's a great non-conference test. I'm not sure Illinois is that. I have no idea what the Illini will be by the time the NCAA tournament comes around. I don't even know if Illinois is a for sure team into the big dance at this moment. Truly, Donnie, I thought it was a moment for Illinois to make some noise. Everybody was healthy. Tomislav Ivasic was back in the lineup for the Illini. Not good. And for Duke, I was wondering, hey, you've been beaten up on the ACC. What about somebody outside of your league? Duke made Illinois look like a second-tier team in the ACC and absolutely routed them, as Duke has done to everybody in ACC action this year. A 43-point victory. Auburn at home on Saturday, a double-digit win over Georgia. They are still the national championship favorites at plus 340. Should remain the number 1 team in the country yet again. Duke will probably be on the rise, I guess. Florida now going to remain number 2 as well. But Duke at plus 370, second best price. There you see Houston and Florida, the 4 teams, Donnie, with a 3-digit price to win a national championship in probably just about 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds about right when you look at that graphic. Auburn's been tremendous. Duke has been tremendous. Houston's got that grit and grime there. Then you have the SEC pulling up with Florida and Alabama, can beat you on any day-to-day basis, followed by Tennessee and Iowa State. It's a pretty good group because if you were to look and you say probably Auburn is the best, right? You take the best team out of the best conference and it would be Auburn. Duke, I don't want to say we're getting worried, or we were worried about them because they played in the ACC and it was down. But that's sort of like a shot across the bow. We're not talking about Illinois top 5 team and, oh, my goodness. But still, like you handle an out-of-conference opponent on a neutral site that big because what happens in the tournament? Oh, neutral sites against out-of-conference type teams that you're going to play. That fits hand in hand here with Duke, what they're looking to do in the tournament. Florida, Alabama, we know how good they are. And then you can have some of those upset bids a little bit lower. But it does appear that there is the big 3 right now in college basketball, and they deserve to be there.
I think everybody that you see on your screen, with maybe the exception of Houston right now, but I do believe the Cougs are battling for that 1 line. Alabama was the number 2 overall 1 seed in the early bracket preview. But DRS, those top 4 teams certainly looking like 1 seeds at this moment. And keep an eye on the Gators. They just keep plotting along, winning games, slightly overlooked. But it was a huge moment for Jon Scheyer and his young Duke team. He said after the game, we want to play in these big venues. We want to play in these marquee matchups so that we can earn that experience for the NCAA tournament. They all earned all of that on Saturday night. Other scores from the weekend. What a rally it was for Oregon on the road against Wisconsin in the Kohl Center early on Saturday. The Ducks down by as many as 16 points in the second half, come all the way back to force overtime. Jackson Shellstad, what a deep 3 he made with under 20 ticks remaining in regulation. And Oregon pulls off the upset outright as an 8.5-point dog against a streaking Badgers team, 77-73. As we showed, Indiana beat Purdue on Sunday. Big rivalry victory. And Donnie, on Friday night, that really got this weekend of college basketball underway. In a game you and I were breaking down, Michigan State on the road at Michigan in Ann Arbor. A rivalry matchup for the top spot in the Big Ten. The Spartans and Tom Izzo win a huge one, 75-62, outright as a slight underdog inside the Chrysler Center.
And boy, they answered that bell, didn't they? As we were breaking it down, I thought Michigan was the better side here, even though I explained how on paper it looked like Michigan State was better on offense and defense, thought Michigan would be able to do some things. And they did for a while. Had the 4-point lead at the break, but the second half was all Michigan State 41-24, but also on that Friday night in the Big East. One of my favorite totals of the weekend, Villanova and Marquette. 81-66 was a final there. Thought we had some advantages at the 3-point line, a fun game to watch, but this is every night now. Used to be, don't you remember in the past, Ben, on a Friday night 10 years ago in the NCAA action, was like 3 teams, most of them like the Metro Atlantic playing. Now you're actually getting top 20 battles on Friday nights now all the way through. It's a great scene in college basketball right now. It really is.
A huge victory for the Spartans, who are now 13-3 in conference. They have that advantage over the Wolverines. Purdue falling out of the Big Ten title race, kind of the same for Wisconsin. Michigan on the road tonight against Nebraska in Lincoln. Donnie, a couple of spots on Saturday that if you follow the line, it makes sense. Arkansas closes as a slight money line favorite at home in Bud Walton against the Missouri team that scored 110 against Alabama earlier in the week. Big victory for the Hogs and John Calipari, 92-85 at home in Fayetteville. Again, a huge victory for an Arkansas team who is playing much better basketball. Probably not enough to get to the NCAA tournament unless they win the SEC tournament, but still Arkansas playing well down the stretch.
No, they are, and how about being down 7 points at the break, scoring 51 points in the second half and outscoring Missouri 51-37 to get that victory. And doing a little bit old school, right? 37 free throw attempts they got, which they made 75% of those, and also 54% as a team from the floor. Didn't shoot all that well from three-point range, but as I said, getting to the rim, getting fouled, those points can certainly rack up quickly, and they use that to their advantage.
As we said, Auburn, a 12-point win over Georgia. Auburn's been booked as at least a 15-point favorite in its last 2. They haven't covered the number. Florida has. Florida has won 6 straight, and they have covered in all 6 victories. A double-digit favorite against LSU. I believe that game was on the road, and Florida gets a big victory over the Bayou Bengals. This Gators team under Todd Golden playing really good ball at the moment. And Donnie, SMU has all the metrics that you would like based on resume to be in big dance consideration, except quad 1 wins. They had a chance at home to knock off Clemson as a basically pick'em game. Clemson making a statement in the ACC, double-digit win in Dallas. The Stangs still remain winless in quad 1 opportunities.
Yeah, you need to pick up victories like that. We all know, but in the ACC, sometimes you just look at Duke here. Louisville's got a quality program going on, and so does Clemson here, just hovering a little bit under the radar because the Blue Devils getting a lot of shine right now.
The only team to beat Duke in ACC play. That was Clemson. NBA recap coming your way next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I think it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A 10-game slate around the association on a Sunday. Here we are in the stretch run of this NBA campaign. All-Star Weekend, a thing of the past. Last weekend in San Francisco. This weekend, you're trying to better that position. Seed line around your conference standings with the playoffs on the horizon. If you are in the postseason race, and because the play-in tournament is a thing, a lot of teams in that postseason race, every game important here down the home stretch of this NBA season. And even, Donnie, if you are going to be a playoff team without much issue here down the stretch, you are trying to prove that you are the best of the best in basketball. The New York Knicks have really not been able to do that, certainly this weekend with a couple of big spots. They get hammered by 40 on the road in Cleveland on Friday, and then yesterday at the home of the reigning champs, that would be inside TD Garden in Boston. The Celtics do some beatdowns as well. 118-105. Boston covering as a 7.5-point home favorite. A total of 231 and a hook stays under. For Boston, the reigning champs have won 5 in a row. They have covered in all 5 victories as well. For New York, the Knicks just 2-6 against the spread as an underdog this year. 0-3 straight up against the Celtics, losing by an average margin of nearly 21 points per game.
Yeah, and that's the issue. We know how talented the Knicks are. The record's decent at 37-20, but it just seems like when they line up against the elite teams in the NBA, they just don't have it there. Maybe some things will change in the playoffs where we're used to playing a lot of minutes talking about the Knicks, and you're not going to play on back-to-backs, let alone every other day, maybe every third day, and that could help them. But it's the same thing that we've talked about multiple times. We know how good the Knicks are. The starting 5 is fine. But you can't, over an 82-game schedule, play these guys this amount of minutes and expect them to be high energy and ready to go, even with the extended breaks in the playoffs. Like you saw yesterday, like they were getting hammered that entire game. So instead of Tom Thibodeau saying, okay, not our night here, let's use the bench. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 guys that were coaches' decisions that didn't even get in the game yesterday in a blowout, which meant your starters, again, Mikal Bridges only 28 minutes, but the rest of them, 35, 41, 38, 40. Those are minutes that you're playing, Ben, where it's close in the final 3 minutes of the game, and you need to make sure your starters are out there, and they probably played the entirety of the game. But there were spots in that game where you could have got breathers here. Like, do we need Karl-Anthony Towns 41 minutes in a blowout type of situation? Probably not, but that's what the Knicks do. Thibodeau's going to play his starting 5 into the ground for good or for bad. Doesn't matter. He's going to play him.
0-3. Yeah, bad right now, DRS. 0-3 for the Knicks against the Celtics this year. 0-2 now against the Cavs after that beatdown in the land on Friday evening. 0-2 against the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Against the best of the best, the New York Knicks have faltered. DRS, when you look at the standings, though, New York's still in a fine spot. They are clearly the 3 seed at this moment, a 4-game advantage over the Indiana Pacers, but now 4 games back of the Celtics, who are 6 games back of who? The NBA's best. A 47-10 mark now for the Cleveland Cavaliers. 6-point home win last night against the Memphis Grizzlies in a game that featured a little bit of bad blood. 129-123, the victory for the Cavaliers. They close as a 6-point home favorite, but Donnie, between 2 teams of 3 in the NBA that play more than 60% of their games to the over, we saw some points last night, even over a total of 247.5. Cleveland, another big win at home, 129-123 over the Grizz.
Yeah, by the way, seeing you don't see this too much in the NBA, a rebounding advantage of plus 20 for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 57 total rebounds to only 37 total rebounds for the Memphis Grizzlies, because the rest of the statistics were pretty even. 45% from the floor for Memphis, 46% from the floor for Cleveland. 3-point percentages here, you actually had Memphis shoot 38% to only 27% for Cleveland. And then on the free throw line, they both made 24 free throws. What's the difference? Extra second chance opportunities inside the arc by getting extra rebounds. That's exactly what Cleveland did yesterday. That's a really good ball club. And again, talking about those victories where they're blowing teams out, I liked them against the New York Knicks here, even in that weird back-to-back situation at home. That line spoke to me, 7.5 up to 8.5, and they really blew them out. And then had the ability to say, okay, big win against an Eastern Conference rival. Let's go outside to the Western Conference and still handle our business at home against a quality opponent in the Memphis Grizzlies. Good weekend for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
A Grizz team right now tied for the second spot in the Western Conference standings. Same exact record as the Denver Nuggets, 37-20. Cleveland has not faltered against the best of the best, to Donnie's point. The Cavs not just the best record straight up in the NBA at 47-10, best covering team in the NBA as well, 37-19-1 against the spread due to the push last night as a 6-point home favorite against Memphis. Elsewhere, earlier in the day on a Sunday, the Golden State Warriors at home playing pretty good ball as of this moment, DRS, especially with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. Golden State 24-point home win in San Francisco against the Mavs, 126-102. The Dubs cover as a 9.5-point home favorite. Total of 228 and a hook. Barely stays under. 30-point performance out of Stephen Curry to lead Golden State to a win.
Yeah, good win by them, too. And again, an easy win, 126-102. Also now winners of 5 of the past 6 games, avenging that only loss in that 6-game stretch, which was to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not saying I like what I see, because Golden State is what Golden State's going to be, a veteran-laden team. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. Yes, that does help out. And also, by the way, a plus 28 in the starting lineup on there for Jimmy Butler. So I like what I have. Are they going to challenge the upper crust, let's just say, of the Western Conference? Probably not. But the team did get better by getting Jimmy Butler, and it shows again 5 winners of 5 of 6. Let's see what they can do over the final parts of the second half of the season.
They've won 3 in a row. They've won 5 of those 6 games with Jimmy Butler in the fold. And right now, Golden State beating Sacramento on Friday, a big home win against Dallas. Yesterday, in the 9th spot in the Western Conference standings, but only a half game behind both the T-Wolves and those Mavs for what would be the 7-8 play-in tournament game. Only a game and a half behind the Clippers for the 6th spot, avoiding the play-in tournament altogether. A lot of ground to be made up for Golden State here rather quickly after the All-Star break. We'll talk the number 1 team in the Western Conference standings. That would be the Oklahoma City Thunder, with a big road win yesterday in the Twin Cities on the other side of the break. What it means for the Western Conference standings, what it means for the overall outlook for the Thunder in terms of that NBA championship price, trying to close the gap on the C's. All of that up next as we round out the opening hour on the early line.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I think it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The MVP frontrunner and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to continue to do Shai Gilgeous-Alexander things. A 37-point performance last night on the road in Minneapolis to lead OKC to a 130-123 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. A close game throughout most of the opening half, alternating who was controlling the quarters, and then in the second, that third quarter, OKC scores 42 points, 37 for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 8 times, 8 rebounds as well, 3 steals, 3 blocks, filling up the box score yesterday to lead the Thunder to a big road victory in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, led the starters, too, in a plus 16, where everybody else outside of Chet Holmgren was in the negatives here, -2, -4, and -1. Talking about Lou Dort, one of their best defensive defenders in the NBA. But this is what you anticipate. It's hard to win on the road, as we talk about. The Minnesota Timberwolves, much higher expectations than what we're seeing at 31-27, but still a good win nonetheless. And you are leaning on your MVP, SGA, as you pointed out, 38 minutes, 13 of 24 from the floor, 8 of 11 from the free throw line, 3 of 6 from the three-point line here. And good to see also healthy fullback, 28 minutes. Chet Holmgren, 19 points. He chips in as well with a very efficient 8 of 11 from the field. It just seemed most like nationally, like we know how good they are, 46-10, but it just feels like until they prove it in the playoffs, they're not going to get the ultimate respect that they deserve. But SGA, man, we saw this coming for years on end. This guy can play, scores 30 every single night, and probably every passing day now, Ben. Those MVP odds technically increasing because I don't know what you're going to have to do to try to steal it away. If he has the best team in the NBA and he continues to pour it in like he's doing now, might as well wrap it up unless he gets, major injury, which of course we're hoping doesn't happen. But SGA by far right now should be the MVP.
He is not going to give you the triple-double night in, night out that Nikola Jokic can. But that is now Jokic's expectation. So unless he does something crazy, it's almost like the consistent standard based on winning the MVP award 3 times in the last 4 seasons. Not saying it's fair, but that's kind of how we evaluate these things from a voter perspective. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to your point, DRS, -440 to win the MVP award at the All-Star break, now -500. Minnesota does cover at home, getting 8.5 points. I don't think that says great things about the T-Wolves. They're an 8.5-point home underdog with everybody basically in the lineup against OKC, but they do cover, only losing by 7. The T-Wolves 9-5-1 against the spread this year as an underdog. But to your point, Donnie, it's the evaluation. What is that ceiling for Oklahoma City that has not proven it in the postseason yet? They have taken their lumps. Can they learn from it? A second-round run last year, but losing in 6 games against the Dallas Mavericks. OKC was basically a money line price around that number, pretty even on both sides, entering the semifinal round against Dallas a year ago. This year, though, the expectation much higher. Second best price to win the NBA championship, only 40 cents behind Boston, +170 for the C's, +210 for OKC. Donnie, the story down the stretch is going to be those two teams tightly compacted and much shorter than everybody else around the NBA. We'll talk about the Cavs in a moment, but it's still a pecking order of 2 at the top of the NBA title odds at this juncture.
And that's probably where it's going to stay. And yet we still look at the Cleveland Cavaliers fresh off another good weekend. Not a lot of expectations when it comes to knocking off the Celtics to even make it into the NBA Finals. But the one thing you have to understand as well is these teams are very good at home, which is why they have great records. But also, OKC, 20-7 now on the road. So you can extrapolate 7 losses on the road, 10 total for the season, 3 at home. So they have home court advantage throughout the Western Conference playoffs, where they've only lost 3 times, but yet again, they're still 20-7 on the road. So the old saying goes, you got home court advantage, handle the home court, split a couple games on the road, and you find yourself advancing here. But the Celtics and the Thunder look like they're clearly the best teams in the NBA, but you know me. I'm not giving up on the Cavaliers. That price is too thick right now for me not to back them and say, you know what? I think they can win an NBA championship, because I do think they can win an NBA championship.
Me as well, plus 750. And the big difference between the Celtics and the Thunder, OKC best record by far in the Western Conference. 9.5 game advantage over both the Grizz and the Nuggets for that one spot. Boston still trails Cleveland by 6 games. An even bigger difference now than at the All-Star break. And the Celtics have won 5 in a row because Cleveland keeps winning games. It's what the Cavs have done all year. It's why they're 47-10. So if it is those 2 teams in an Eastern Conference Finals, of course Boston would be favored, but they wouldn't have home court advantage. How big of a difference will that be? We'll talk more about the NBA later on in the show. Up next, though, to start hour 2, NFL headlines from the weekend. That's next.